I'm supposed to say that Nicole did that whole thing in 2 days. She's a phenomenon. Let's hear it for Nicole for doing it. Took us weeks. I will out music nerd all of you. Ever since I was a DJ at the age of 8, I've been obsessed with music. I'm sorry, what? I wanted to call her out for like the whole last hour. That was Devo with Whip It, and now here's Blondie with The Tide Is High. I'd say to my portable cassette recorder and then wait patiently for it to come on the radio. I watched MTV for hours when my family first got cable, writing down the names of every video I saw, and then saved it for 3 decades. When I got older, I knew I wanted to do something with music, so I interned at 91X and slaved for record stores, music video producers, record distributors, and radio magazines. When the World Wide Web came along, it was like a drug for an info junkie like me. I was on my computer until the sun came up, falling asleep, waiting for a dial-up modem to load videos, and searching around for tidbits about just one more band. If I couldn't find what I was looking for, I would sometimes put something up on my stylish, mostly text, personal website in the hopes that someone would find it and give me some answers. I did that. One subject I couldn't seem to find much information about was producer John Leckie. I became aware of Mr. Leckie when I was an 18-year-old audio production student at Cal State Northridge. His name had popped up on albums I loved by bands like The Posies, XTC, and Radiohead, and it got me curious. In 1970, he was one of the house engineers at London's famed Abbey Road Studios at the age of 21, which put him at the controls for some very famous recordings by Solo Beatles, Derek and the Dominos, and Pink Floyd. Most importantly, he produced my favorite record of all time. Love you. The 1989 self-titled debut album by Manchester, England's Stone Roses. A swirling mix of psychedelic imagery, boastful lyrics, and stunning musicianship, it regularly turns up at the top of British lists of the greatest albums ever made. You've probably never heard of it. Fucking Americans. This was still before the days where the internet gave you a list of anyone's life work with a click or two. I put up what little info I had on a page I modestly titled John Leckie, Studio Stud. And started to get people writing to me about things I'd missed. A fan page for a record producer. Nerd alert. One day, I got a very short, cryptic email that read, "I'm sitting here, next to me is John. He says, what about the Roy Harper albums and also the Karma-Canix?" Karma and then K-A-N-I-X for me. He said he will be in touch soon and thanks for the webpage. It was like getting a letter from another world. I replied with a thank you note, but never got a response. A few years later, I found myself taking my dream vacation to England's Reading Festival. As long as I could remember, I'd wanted to stand in a cold, wet field, surrounded by the various accents of the British Isles, watching some amazing band that Americans could care less about, with people who actually knew how to clap in unison and sing loudly. I knew a British friend going on the third day, but otherwise I was on my own. I got the courage to drop a note to the stranger who'd shown John my webpage, and within a few days, John himself replied that he'd be happy to see me and gave me his number to call him when I arrived. The day I touched down in England, I called John on a barely functional payphone, and he immediately picked up. I still couldn't believe what was happening, but played it cool. Wondered if he could hear how much I was smiling through the phone. It turned out that he was going to the first day of Reading to see a new band he was working with. He agreed to meet by the soundboard after their set. A few days later, I was herded into the festival along with thousands of real-life British people. All proudly wearing the names of my favorite bands across their chest. I'd always secretly hoped I would get the true wet UK experience,